what's the next part? So the next part of our app is we want to do some AJAX calls, right? So I set up a button here. Where's my button? I set up a button here called get data. Right now it doesn't do anything. If I just inspect, I go. I just click get data. It's just a button, doesn't do anything. What I really want to do AJAX is I want to click that button and have it do some AJAX fanciness, right? So in the CGI scripts you've written so far, AJAX is handled by some script that takes some parameters in, does some AJAXing, and prints to the console. So with a framework like Flask, you can do AJAX as well. It's just another function. So I'll show you how to do that. So before we do AJAXing, we need to just create a function to actually return the data. So remember that this function returns an HTML web page, right? This is really used to return a whole web page to the user. So we want another function that returns data. So this just returns a JSON, piece of data in JSON format. So we're going to copy this. I'm going to call this lots of data. So if I visit this lots of data URL, I'm going to get a bunch of data back. So what do I call this? I call this get. I can name this whatever I want. I'll say people. I'm going to define my people as a dictionary. Alice 25. You can copy and paste this directly from the code examples in lecture. I'm just copying from this. Charlie 20. Found my syntax errors. Doug 28. Okay, so that's just a dictionary in Python, just an object. And I'm just going to return JSONify people, not my people. JSONify is a Flask function. Got another convenient function. I have to import it. It's a function that takes an object, a dictionary actually, and turns it into a string so that it's in JSON proper format. So I do this, restarted. So now if I visit lots of data, let's visit this web page called lots of data. So what happens? All right, so this is what happens, right? If I visit lots of data, it just gives me a string that's JSON. It has a curly brackets, it has a string Alice to 25, Bob 21, Charlie, so forth. So this is the data it returns. Every time I visit this URL, it's giving me this data. It's a string, but it happens to be in valid JSON format, so my scripts can parse it as JSON. So does this make sense? So all I'm doing is instead of returning a web page now, if I visit lots of data, I'm getting a string back that's in JSON format. Okay, so how do we actually use this via AJAX? So we need to somehow make an AJAX call to lots of data and then get the data back and do stuff in JavaScript. So AJAX is done just like how we do AJAX normally. So we're just going to augment the HTML web page to include some JavaScript in AJAX. And now I'm just going to magically copy a bunch of code. My code is that, because I don't want to type all of it. Whoops. I just copied the head in here. All right, so remember the body is still the same. I'm just gonna paste all this code in. All right, so what just happened? So I pasted in this script source jQuery because I need to include jQuery somehow in my code. So instead of downloading it, I'm just importing it from the website. And then I have a script tag type text.jQuery JavaScript. I just throw my JavaScript directly into the page. Again, if you want to be more clean about it, you can load the JavaScript from another page, right, from a JS file somewhere else. But we'll put it all here for simplicity. Remember, everything should go inside document.ready because you don't want to do stuff before document's ready. So how this JavaScript, and there's nothing else underneath, it's just JavaScript. Recall that the button is called get data. So remember to spell it right, get data button with an ID get data. And we'll just study this JavaScript. It should be pretty clear to all of you right now. So the JavaScript looks like, we have a get data. We select pound get data. So that selects the button. And then the click handler is what happens when I click the button. I run this function right here. So then whenever you click the button, that function is run. So then what happens at the function? It calls a .getJSON function. This is a jQuery convenience function that does an AJAX call. So recall that we learned the basic AJAX, the $.AJAX. That's the most general solution. There's a bunch of convenient wrappers that jQuery put around. GetJSON is a super convenient one. It just basically says do a GET request, and whatever data you get back, convert it to a JSON. Assume it's JSON, convert it to an object. So .getJSON will actually make an AJAX request, and assuming it gets JSON back. So what does this do? It calls this URL. And lo and behold, /lots of data is the URL we want. It's, whoa, it is /lots of data is this one. All right, whoa, let's erase this. /lots of data is that URL right there. So it's making an AJAX request to /lots of data. And the AJAX request doesn't care if it's a file or anything. It's just a URL. It doesn't care what's underneath it. As long as it can visit it and do something, it's happy. So it wants to make a request to lots of data. And what does it do once it receives the data back? If it successfully receives the data, it calls this function. The variable it's passed in is DAT. I just call it DAT. You can call it whatever you want. And then it logs to the console, AJAX received data. And then it prints DAT. Console.dir, dir is convenient because it prints the object out, so you can click on it to expand what the object is. So it's just a convenient way of printing objects. So if all goes well, it's going to make an AJAX request without reloading the page. It's going to grab my data back. So recall this all goes in our HTML file, which is a template now. So, but it's any part that's not in the template will just get printed verbatim to the page. So let's try it. Let's see if it reloads. Okay, so I'm going to reload. Let's see what happens. So recall if I say user Alice goes to this page. When I click get data, hopefully I should do the AJAX request. So if I do data, and there we go, right? AJAX received data. That was really fast. AJAX received data, and if I open the object, it has all the data in it. Alice, Bob, blah, blah, blah. So this is an actual JavaScript object received from the JSON. And I can do the same thing with Bob. I mean, I don't even care if it's Bob. I just go to a page. So receive data, receive data. You could look at the network, clear it. If I look at the network, every time I click get data, it's doing an AJAX request. It's doing another AJAX request, doing another AJAX request. And every request responds with this string with the data in it. So from our Python script, what actually happened was this lots of data function was run, and it returned a JSON string that consisted of the data. So this is really nice because if we zoom out, this actually all fits. If I zoom in enough, this all fits on a page, which is pretty cool. So this is actually a whole AJAX web app right here, right? So we have the web page that's generated from a template. We have a function that returns some JSON data. And then we have in the template itself, we have some JavaScript that does an AJAX call. The only thing that's missing is a database, but we could just make a database. We can just say import SQLite 3, and then we could make an SQLite database. And when you respond to a user request, you can write from the database, read from the database, so on. And it's actually really compact. So notice how this data I just made up. It's fixed, obviously, but you could, in real life, you could grab this data from some database and such. So with all this, you actually get pretty full-featured functionality for a web application in not much code.